In today's video, I want to show you a simple 3-step process to automate your data PDF reports. I used to create PDF reports by calculating data somewhere, whether that's R or Python, then taking the numbers I've calculated and sticking them manually into a Word document and then printing this as a PDF. Honestly, this is a very tedious workflow and it is also very error prone. After all, I'll probably forget to copy and paste some number and then my report is wrong. So in today's video, I'll show you the 3-step process that will automate the whole data flow from getting data to crunching the numbers and then generating the PDF with the updated numbers. So with that said, let's dive in. Now, before I start to show you the 3-step process, let's have a look at an example PDF of how this whole process might look like, what kind of PDFs this can result in. Inside of Positron, I have this example PDF here that has a whole bunch of data on some fictitious fund. There are some portfolio managers. They are called Jane Doe and John Trader. It's all stock footage here. There's also some text that contains a whole bunch of numbers and percentages. And then there are many charts, key fund facts, numbers. There's even a risk indicator. And then there are a whole bunch of more tables. And this is a typical report that is data driven. It has a lot of numbers and updating them manually is super tedious. And in today's video, I'm not going to show you how to create this PDF here because that's obviously way too much for a short YouTube video, but I'll show you the framework that has been used to create this PDF. And once you understand this framework, you can use it for your own PDFs. So now let's talk about the 3-step process. It's pretty basic actually. In the first step, what you want to do is that you want to prepare or connect to your data. This means that whether you use R or Python, you need to connect this with some data source. For example, this could be a database, a simple CSV file on your computer, data stored in some cloud storage like AWS S3. And once you have that, you can use R or Python to calculate all of the things that you want to display later on in the PDF. And once you have done that, you've actually concluded already step 2 out of this 3-step process. So all that's left to do is to pass this data to a software called Typst. It's a fantastic tool that can generate very beautiful PDFs really easily and also has the ability to include data from files. So what you will do in the last step is to write an output file and then load this inside of Typst. If you want, on top of that, you can put an orchestration layer with some automation, for example, with GitHub Actions that will rerun this whole process whenever the data updates or on some timer or something like that. So that is the idea here. Let's have a look at a specific example that we can actually understand and that doesn't have as many moving parts as the example PDF I've shown you before. In Positron, I have another example PDF that obviously doesn't look as beautiful as the PDF we've seen before. I'm doing this here because I want to highlight the underlying techniques to get data into PDFs, and then figuring out how to style stuff, we can worry about that at some other point. For now, let's have a look at our example PDF that just has a whole bunch of data on penguins. I have put in a text that says that it will use data from a file called outdata.json. And in here, it will give us an overview of the data set depending on what is in the output JSON data. So it will tell us there are 3 penguin species in our data, ATHLYTICZ, Chinstrap, and Gen2. And then for every species that we have, it will give us the exact same content. I mean, not exact same in the sense that it's literally the same, but the structure is the same. It's always as a headline the name of the species, then some text on the average recorded body mass, and some information on when it was cited. And then we have this repeated for all 3 species. That's kind of the idea of this example PDF. And this already shows you how you can repeat this kind of thing for all kinds of different data that you have. As long as it's structured the same, you can include all of that inside of your PDF document. Cool. So now let's figure out how does this actually work. For this, I'm going to show you the R script that calculates this stuff. It is very simple. There's not a lot of things going on here. Let me actually make this a little bit larger so that you can see it better. And then we have started the script with some fictitious function that is just called calculate_stats. In our example here, this just represents the work that we would normally do to go from simple data to crunched numbers that we want to display in the PDF report. So what we want to do is step 1, we connect to our data. This is, in our case, just reading a CSV file. Again, you could do this differently with a database or some cloud storage, but here I'm just going the easy route of a CSV. Then we're going to process the data. That's step 2. In here, we're just calling this calculate_stats function. We don't really have to worry about what the calculations here are. And then we write our out stats to some JSON file. And once we have done that, we can render the PDF with the Typst command, assuming that we have the Typst software installed on our computer. So what this will do is create this test PDF. And I can even show you if I delete this thing now, it's gone. As I re-execute the script, everything rendered. And now test PDF is there again. So all of this thing happens by just running this script, and you can repeat this process in Python as well if you want. So if you like Python more, the idea is pretty much the same. Connect to the data, calculate the stats, write this to a JSON file, also do a CSV file. I'm just using JSON file here. Really, it's just for convenience. And then you run the same Typst compile command, and then you're good to go. So I'm guessing you don't have any trouble understanding what's going on here, or if you're a Python user, what's going on here. It's really just crunching numbers. You're probably already familiar with that. What you're most likely interested in is how does this last step of generating this PDF actually work? And for that, let's look into our Typst file. And inside our Typst file, we don't have a lot going on either. Again, this is a very simple example. This is why the PDF is so ugly. But if we look into our Typst file, we'll see that right at the top, we will load our JSON data. What Typst allows you to do is to combine code and markdown-like syntax to create PDFs. So for example, you see that we start with a code line that does something like saving data into a data variable via the JSON function with a specific data set. And then we follow this by a regular text. It looks more or less like Markdown. The syntax is a bit different, but in principle, you can understand this even if you've never seen Typst. And then we can intersperse our text with more code. And inside of our text, we can even use things like calculating the length of the data object and then using this inside of our text. This is how we have created this first part here that says, let me actually zoom in here. This data set contains 3 species. And if I look into this, we have this data set contains, and then this is where some calculations happen. And then there's the species part. And it also shows us which kind of species. This is also extracted from the data. Then as we repeat stuff, you might assume that this will happen in a for loop-like structure, and you are absolutely right. It will just use a for loop and iterate through our data. And in case you're wondering what is our data actually look like, it's also very simple. It is a JSON object. As I said, it's an array of simple objects, and each object contains the name of the species, the mean weight, and the year of the sightings as another array. So with this JSON-like structure, you can pass a whole bunch of information to Typst and then use this inside of this markdown-like structure to generate text. And even inside of this for loop, you can also see that, okay, here it also uses this markdown syntax using the species information or the mean weight information or the year sightings information. This is exactly these names that we have inside of our JSON here. And all in all, this is then rendered by Typst. And this is how you then get this simple PDF. So this was a pretty high level overview of how to automate data reports by combining your data science language, whether that's R or Python, with the tool called Typst. I know this didn't go into too many details on this Typst part, but I hope that from the little bit of Typst code I've shown you, you understand that this isn't actually too hard to get started with. But if you're interested in learning more about Typst, I have a couple of options for you. You can either watch one of my YouTube videos. I think it should pop up right there or there. I always forget at which position the link pops up. Or you could check out my free PDF guide that will show you this idea of this framework. You can use the link in the description. Or you could check out my data automation course that shows you every step of the way of this process and goes deep into Typst, showing you how to do all of the stuff I've shown you here. We'll create this beautiful font PDF that we've seen earlier, and we'll also create a bunch of tables because tables are really crucial in a lot of PDFs. So if that's something you're interested in, you can also check out the link in the description. But again, there are also some free resources that you could check out first. So now, with all of that said, I say thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.